Good morning. How are we doing? All right, the British invasion is not over, I'm afraid. So let me start and give you a little bit of a scoop about me and then about accessibility at Microsoft. So a little bit about me. I'm a Brummie. Who knows of Birmingham? Anyone heard of Birmingham? Who's heard of Ozzy Osbourne? All right, I don't have the accent. Yes! I was dragged up by two parents who happened to be principals of elementary schools who had a passion for special needs, which was actually really, really important because my younger sister was born with congenital deafness, and I acquired deafness through measles and ear infections, which was, of course, very lucky of me. And my dad has the kind of deafness that I think a lot of parents have. They kind of hear dinner but don't hear dishes, if anyone recognizes that. And I was brought up near Birmingham, and I think the one great thing about my deafness, which is in the severe profound space, was that I didn't acquire the accent. So I don't sound like Ozzy, but that's where I'm from. And I went on to do something my parents said, which was be anything that you want to be. Set your sights high and go for it. And so I went on to music school to be a classical musician, because clearly I'm nowhere near cool enough to be a rock star, and went on from there into IT because I found out that all musicians are broke. And I needed money. And then wind forward a few years, I'm not disclosing my age, and I now work on disability. I work on disability because I'm one of over 1 billion people in the world. It's an enormous, ridiculously huge number, and many of you know that. And it's something that impacts all of us from time to time, whether it's we're sitting in the car and trying to send a text message, and of course we never text and drive, or it's that we have our parents, our friends, ourselves, whether it's temporary, like my dear dad, or it's a permanent thing that you can't shake. I live with my disability. I don't suffer it. I actually think that it's given me a lot of strength. But if you look at the unemployment statistics for disability, they're somewhat criminal, in my view. They're double the rate of those without disabilities, and it means that we've got a ridiculous amount of talent that's left out there in the workplace and not in the workforce. And that's our challenge, and that's been something that we've been focused on in the last couple of years. In fact, we've been focused on it for a lot longer than that, but we've really been focusing on key programs that could help us to change the paradigm. One of those was around autism, and this really came out of a hunch. We have a great disability community at Microsoft. It's around 1,000 people, and we get together every year, and there's a sponsor of that community, and both her and I have kids with autism. We see every single day just how mad talented these kids are, but how they're going to struggle to get into the workplace. We also know that we need talent, right? We're a tech company, and we need talent, and we know that there's a need. Just data and math and STEM is actually a lot of just great grounding. So what we did 18 months ago is we put out a blog. We put out a blog that says we're going to run a program to hire people with autism into Microsoft. And that was one blog. 2 weeks later, I had 800 resumes in a mailbox, and I had 12 tier 1 media groups reaching out to interview, which we declined. We didn't have a lot to talk about. We were just starting to do it. But what we've done since is hired a small number of folks, it's around 22, 23 folks right now, into different parts of Microsoft. These are kids, just kids because they're younger than me, that's all. But they're kids who are insanely talented. These resumes can often read with a headline of, I work 3 hours a week at Safeway. And then at the bottom of them, you've got a master's or a PhD or an engineering degree. And you've got it just doesn't even comprehend. And all we had to do was change the way that we interview. We ditched it. We bring them in for a 2-week to 4-week academy, and we help them to do crazy things. We ask them to build shops, and we give them Lego Mindstorms. But the other unintended consequence is that when we worked with all of the social partners, like Prevail up in Seattle, we learned that what we needed to do was put a support environment around and create an inclusive environment. And ironically, this thing, which is all about team buddies and external buddies, because we found that a lot of these guys, like Blake and Kyle on the picture before, when they get a job, a great paying job at exactly the same rate as everyone else, they like to play Xbox at 2 in the morning and forget that they have to get up in the morning. So we had to get external coaches in to help guide on some of the social principles, and internal coaches to help with the norms. But what we found is that doesn't actually, it's not just folks with autism that need it. It's, all right, I don't need to say more, you get me. We're spanning it out. What came out of this specific program wasn't just a group of talented kids that are now working on HoloLens and Xbox and Windows and Office. But we found a new way of working, and the managers rock it. They come to us and they say, you know, the best thing about hiring someone with autism is that I've created an inclusive environment for all. I hired Ann Taylor from the National Federation of the Blind 18 months ago. She's on my team. And she came to me with 15 years' experience of working in technical strategy. She's blind herself. And this was another epiphany, and Anne, like many others that we've hired since, has helped to absolutely change how we think about accessibility at Microsoft. Compliance is one thing, but let's be honest, customer use is way ahead of any law, sorry. It is, right? Technology moves faster than the laws do. So what we learned from Anne was that, yeah, we could hit 508, we could hit any law that we wanted to, but customers needed more than that. Because of Anne's feedback and others like her, Office 365 is the most accessible Office there's ever been. We've got Word, Excel. I've got crazy stuff in Skype for Business that just, her world has changed. She walks in, and she took the job because she wanted to change the world, and she walks in and tells me that she is. What we learn with accessibility in the modern world is that this cycle is what's going to drive it. In order to make an accessible environment, you've got to have the collaboration. You've got to truly listen to your employees. And you've got to hire people that really get it. Anne, Kyle, and Blake are experts that we need at Microsoft if we're going to create better products and services for all of our customers, including the over 1 billion with disabilities. It's a humbling journey, not perfect. But I do think that in terms of a call to action, there's lots of things that we've learned, ridiculous amounts, that I'm not going to cover in a 10-minute gig, sorry. But I do think that there's a lot in terms of resources and a lot of takeaways. A lot of people come to me and say accessibility is hard. I bloody disagree. I think if we listen more, it's a lot easier than you think. I do think that this is a naive space in the technology sector. And one of the things that we're desperately trying to do is actually build out all of our sites. We've relaunched the accessibility site. We put all of our inclusive hiring collateral on there so that people with disabilities know, actually, that their mad skills, mad being a good term, by the way, are a strength to us, and we need and want more of them. So everything is on that website in terms of accommodations, benefits, how we work. Self-identify when you apply, and we'll make sure that your conversation and interview isn't about your disability and whether or not you can access that interview. It's about those skills. And also products, right? And how those products can be productive tools in the workplace. It's a fun ride and a fun journey that we're on. And I'm going to leave you with one wee video that I don't just love because I narrated it, but I love because I think it speaks to everything. This is the audio-described version because you never know with disability if there's somebody in the room that needs it.
Microsoft Inclusive Hiring.
Microsoft's mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. We want to open doors for everyone. That includes people with disabilities.
Employees high five.
There are 1.2 billion people in the world with disabilities. These are our employees, our customers, our friends, our family. We need to empower people with disabilities to come to work as they are, everything of who they are, to go for it. Whether that's building a product, a service, a website, or innovating something crazy that's going to reimagine the future for people with disabilities.
A screen reads Inclusive Design Toolkit.
People with disabilities have amazing skills. People with disabilities are a strength for this company.
A screen states Inclusive Hiring for People with Disabilities.
We need talent that really understands accessibility to drive innovation.
Ariel signs hello, welcome to Microsoft's Disability Answer Desk.
Microsoft is a place where you can be who you are every day. And being who you are is the best skill that any of us can have. To learn more, go to Microsoft.com/inclusive hiring.
The screen shows the Microsoft logo in high contrast, Braille, signed language, and the standard Microsoft logo. Inclusive Hiring.
Thanks, folks.